The evening air carried a gentle chill, and the world seemed to slow down around the little bus stop. Emma sat quietly on the cold bench, pulling her worn coat tighter around her thin shoulders. She had been there for hours, watching buses come and go, none of them carrying a destination she could call her own. Her life had become a string of bus stops, street corners, and borrowed moments of shelter. A bag with a few belongings rested at her feet, the last pieces of a life that had once been ordinary. And then, there was Lily. The little girl stood close, clutching her teddy bear, her pink jacket bright against the fading sky. Her eyes, so wide and full of wonder, rested on Emma. There was no fear in her gaze, only curiosity, as if she saw something familiar in the young woman beside her. Emma glanced at her once, then quickly looked away. She was used to people staring, but children usually hid behind their parents. This child, however, stood calmly, as though she had chosen this spot for a reason. A bus rolled past, its headlights painting a brief glow across their faces. Lily's soft voice broke the silence. "You look cold," she whispered. Emma blinked, startled. She hadn't expected the little girl to speak to her. She nodded faintly, too tired to form an answer. And then Lily said something even stranger, something that would change both of their lives. She looked up, hugging her teddy closer, and said softly, "You need a home, and I need a mommy." Emma froze. Her mind searched for words, but none seemed to arrive. Surely she had misheard. Surely this little girl had spoken out of playfulness, not reality. "You need a mommy," Emma repeated softly, her voice rough from days without much speaking. Lily nodded, her curls bouncing gently. "Yes, you don't have a home, and I don't have a mommy. Maybe we could help each other." The words were so simple, yet they sank into Emma like stones into still water. She stared at the child, unsure whether to smile or cry. Emma had never been anyone's mother. She had barely managed to keep herself alive these past months. And yet, in the innocent eyes of this little girl, she saw no judgment, no fear, only trust. "Where's your daddy?" Emma asked carefully, her voice trembling. Lily looked down at her shoes. "He's at work. He works all the time. Sometimes, I wait for him here. He told me not to talk to strangers." Emma gave a weak, nervous laugh. "Then why are you talking to me?" Lily lifted her teddy bear and pressed its little nose against Emma's arm. "Because you don't feel like a stranger. You feel lonely, like me." For the first time in a long while, Emma's eyes burned with tears. She quickly looked away, embarrassed. But Lily just sat down beside her on the bench, her tiny hand brushing against Emma's worn sleeve. In that moment, the bus stop no longer felt so empty. The night deepened, and the street around them grew busier with cars and lights. But at the bus stop, time felt slower. Two figures, one small and one weary, sat together as if fate had planned this meeting all along. Emma's heart ached. She hadn't felt this kind of closeness in months. Not since she lost her apartment. Not since her parents stopped answering her calls. Not since the world had turned its back. Beside her, Lily swung her legs gently, the way children do when they wait. Her teddy bear sat on her lap, and she whispered to it now and then, as though introducing Emma to her only friend. Emma finally spoke, her voice soft. "You must love your daddy very much, waiting for him like this." The first drops of rain began to fall, tiny circles rippling on the sidewalk. Emma pulled her coat tighter, wishing she had an umbrella. Beside her, Lily frowned at the drizzle, then looked at Emma. Slowly, she lifted her teddy bear and placed it in Emma's lap. Emma's breath caught. "Oh, sweetheart, I can't take this," she whispered, startled by the gesture. But Lily pushed it closer. "He keeps me safe when I'm scared. Maybe he can keep you safe too." Emma held the soft, worn bear carefully, as though it were made of glass. Its button eyes looked up at her, shining in the lamplight. For years, no one had given her a gift. No one had thought she deserved one. Yet here was a child, offering her most precious treasure without hesitation. Tears pricked Emma's eyes. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked softly. Lily smiled, her small voice steady. "Because you look like you need someone. And I think, maybe I do too." The rain picked up, tapping gently on the bench. Emma looked at the little girl beside her and felt something stir deep inside, something she had long buried, the feeling of being worthy of love. For the first time in months, Emma whispered, "Thank you." And for the first time in years, she felt a fragile thread of hope. The low hum of an engine broke the quiet rhythm of the rain. A sleek car slowed and stopped beside the bus stop. Lily's face lit up. "Daddy!" she cried, hopping off the bench, her curls bouncing as she ran forward. A tall man stepped out, his suit pressed, his shoes polished. But his face was weary, his phone still in hand as if glued there. He glanced at his daughter with a distracted smile. "Lily, sweetheart, I told you not to wait outside in the rain." Lily threw her arms around his waist. "I wasn't alone, Daddy. Emma was with me." The man looked up, finally noticing the young woman on the bench. Emma froze under his gaze, clutching the teddy bear as though it were a shield. His brow furrowed, suspicion flashing in his eyes. Emma lowered her gaze quickly. She had seen that look before, from strangers who thought she was dangerous, untrustworthy, less than human. She braced herself for harsh words. But Lily tugged his sleeve, her voice eager. "Daddy, Emma needs a home. And I need a mommy. Can she come with us?" The man blinked, stunned. For a long moment, he said nothing, his phone forgotten in his hand. His daughter's words hung in the damp night air, as fragile and powerful as a prayer. Emma's heart pounded. She wanted to stand, to explain, to say she didn't mean to intrude. But her body stayed frozen, caught between shame and longing. The rain fell harder, blurring the lines between strangers and family, between loneliness and possibility. The man opened the car door, his movements stiff, uncertain. "Come on, Lily," he said, guiding her into the back seat. But Lily shook her head. "Not without Emma." She patted the seat beside her, her blue eyes shining with insistence. "Daddy, please. She's my friend." Emma stood on the curb, the rain dripping from her dark hair, soaking through her thin coat. She clutched the teddy bear to her chest, torn between stepping forward and running away. She didn't belong in cars like this. She didn't belong in warm places. Every instinct told her to walk away before she was told to leave. But then Lily spoke again, her voice soft yet firm. "Please, Daddy. Just for tonight." The man exhaled slowly, pinching the bridge of his nose. He looked at Emma, his eyes searching. For a moment, something in his expression softened, perhaps the echo of his daughter's innocence reaching him. Finally, he nodded. "Get in." Emma hesitated, her breath trembling. Her hand gripped the car door, the warmth inside calling to her like a distant memory. She slid into the seat slowly, her body tense, her heart racing. Lily beamed, wrapping her little arms around Emma's damp coat. "See, now we're all together." Emma glanced at the man in the front seat, unsure of what tomorrow would bring. But in that moment, for the first time in a very long time, she was no longer outside in the rain. She was inside. She was chosen. She was seen. The kitchen smelled of soup and freshly baked bread. Emma sat at the table, unsure whether she belonged there, her hands resting stiffly in her lap. Lily hopped onto the chair beside her, her teddy propped on the table as if he, too, had been invited. "Eat, Emma," she urged, her small face bright. Emma hesitated, then picked up the spoon. The first sip was warm, filling the emptiness inside her that was deeper than hunger. Her throat tightened as she swallowed, tears stinging her eyes. She quickly wiped them away, embarrassed. Across the room, Lily's father leaned against the counter. His expression was guarded, his gaze sharp. He was still trying to figure her out, this young woman who had stepped out of the shadows of a bus stop and into his home. But Lily's joy was unstoppable. "Daddy, did you know Emma hasn't had dinner? Teddy and I think she deserves extra bread." Emma laughed softly, the sound rusty from disuse. She broke the bread carefully, as if each bite was too precious to waste. The warmth of the kitchen wrapped around her like a blanket. For the first time in months, she wasn't shivering. For the first time in years, she wasn't invisible. And though the man said little, Emma could feel something shifting in the air, the first fragile thread of trust. The house had grown quiet. The rain had stopped, leaving only the soft ticking of the clock. Lily had fallen asleep on the sofa, her tiny chest rising and falling with steady breaths. She clutched her teddy tightly, her pink jacket folded like a blanket over her. Emma sat on the edge of the same sofa, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. She could feel the man's gaze on her from across the room. Finally, he spoke. "What's your name?" "Emma," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Emma, my daughter trusts you. That's not something she gives easily." His eyes softened for the first time that night. But I need to know, are you in trouble? Emma lowered her gaze, shame heating her cheeks. No. Just, no home. No family. I've been trying to survive. I didn't mean to intrude. He studied her, his jaw tight. For a moment, Emma thought he would ask her to leave. Instead, he sighed. Lily hasn't smiled like that in a long time. Tonight, she did. Emma's chest ached at his words. She glanced at Lily, curled up in peaceful dreams, and felt a strange sense of belonging, fragile, but real. I don't know what tomorrow holds, the man said quietly, but, for tonight, you're safe here. Emma swallowed hard, her voice trembling. Thank you. And in the stillness of that moment, the loneliness inside her loosened, just a little. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting the room in gentle gold. Lily sat cross-legged on the carpet, her teddy perched on her knee. Emma sat beside her, still feeling like she was living in a dream. She wore borrowed clothes that smelled of laundry soap instead of rain and streets. Lily looked up at her, her blue eyes steady. And with the same innocent certainty as the night before, she said, you need a home, and I need a mommy. Emma's breath caught. The words struck her heart again, soft yet powerful. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. She wasn't sure she was worthy of such a role. The father stood in the doorway, his arms crossed, listening. He didn't interrupt. He simply watched, his expression unreadable. Emma managed a shaky smile. Sweetheart, I don't know if I can be a mommy. But, I can be your friend. For as long as you'll have me. Lily tilted her head thoughtfully. Friends can turn into mommies, she said with a grin. Emma laughed, the sound lighter than before. For the first time, it didn't feel rusty, it felt real. The father's gaze softened as he watched the two of them. Something in him shifted too, though he kept it silent. In that sunlit room, surrounded by warmth, Emma felt a seed of belonging take root. A seed she hadn't dared to believe she could plant. The garden was alive with laughter. Lily ran across the grass, her teddy bouncing in her arms, her giggles ringing through the morning air. Emma stood watching, her dark hair brushed, her coat replaced with clean clothes borrowed from the house. She felt different, lighter, as though the weight she had carried for so long had finally begun to lift. The father stood beside her, his hands in his pockets. For the first time, his posture was relaxed, his gaze calm. She hasn't laughed like that in months, he said quietly. Emma nodded, her throat tight with emotion. She's special. She deserves so much love. He glanced at Emma, his voice softer than before. So do you. Emma's breath caught. She looked away, blinking against the sudden sting of tears. Lily ran back to them, her cheeks flushed with joy. She grabbed Emma's hand firmly, her tiny fingers wrapping around it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Don't leave, Lily said, her eyes shining. Stay, please. Emma knelt down, meeting the little girl's gaze. She didn't promise forever, she didn't yet know what forever looked like. But she smiled, her voice steady. I'll stay as long as you'll have me. And in that moment, under the golden sunlight, Emma realized that home wasn't always a place. Sometimes, it was a person, or two. For Lily, who needed a mommy. For Emma, who needed a family. And for a father who needed them both more than he knew. It was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning. Lily nodded, though her eyes grew sad. I do. But he's always busy. He says he works hard for me, but sometimes, it feels like he forgets I'm waiting. Emma lowered her gaze, the words cutting deeper than Lily knew. Forgotten. Left behind. Invisible. She knew those feelings too well. You're a brave little girl, Emma said gently. Most kids would be scared to wait alone. I'm not scared, Lily replied, leaning against Emma. Not when you're here. Emma's lips trembled, and she turned her face away so Lily wouldn't see the tears that threatened again. In that moment, the walls Emma had built around her heart began to crack. This little girl, with her innocent honesty, was touching something Emma thought she had lost forever, the hope of being needed.